This is Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Lou DiBella for DiBella's.
Viva Italia!
Yeah.
Viva
No need to ask how your week's been this time around.
Well, I'm a big football fan, so I thoroughly enjoyed the game the other day. Look, England had a very young team, and they simply, honestly, they just weren't as good as Italy. I mean, Italy was the best side in that whole tournament, pretty much throughout the whole tournament. But I think that, the Brits should be thrilled with that team. I think that team played their heart out. And, I mean, to start getting on 19 and 20-year-old kids for missing penalties against literally one of the best 5 goalkeepers probably in the world right now. Come on. I mean, that's so you guys got to get control of those. Look, the hooligans are not the majority of English football fans, but someone's got to reel up those animals, honestly. And the racist stuff is just mind blowing. But it is what it is. And I have seen a lot of outcry, and hopefully maybe it's going to cause more discussion and some things to get better. And obviously the racist part of things isn't just reserved for England. It's all over the place. And we got to do a better job of policing that. And there got to be repercussions for things.
Yeah, I think for kind of closet racists, it's just the latest convenient excuse, isn't it, to kind of come out of the woodwork.
No, exactly. But I got to tell you, I thought that they, particularly for the first 30 minutes, they played great football.
Yeah.
And then the better teams sort of did what they do. They just, Italy took control of the game, and it's hard to lose in penalties no matter what also, but it's nice to win in penalties.
I was saying to someone earlier, the fact that we were the inferior team for kind of 2/3 of the game made me feel better about losing on penalties, because I didn't feel like we were robbed by the penalty shootout format. I felt like we deserved to lose really over the course of the 120 minutes. So it wasn't as bad.
That was sort of, to be honest, I would have been very upset because because they thoroughly outplayed them after the first 30 minutes. I mean, literally outplayed them for another 90 minutes. And I would have felt like it really, the wrong thing would have happened if the penalties went the other way. But I got to tell you that your goalkeeper, man, he played to his best of it. That kid played 110% he had a terrific tournament, and he had a terrific game, and he had a terrific shootout. It wasn't his fault.
No.
But also, I mean, look, the one kid missed a shot, hit the post, but the other 2 shots weren't bad. They were just great saves. I mean,
saves, yeah.
The kid, Donnarumma had some kind of tournament.
Well, he's enormous as well, isn't he? It helps.
So let's talk about boxing now. Let me guess, we're going to discuss Tyson Fury's positive test.
We are. But has this been confirmed now that there is a positive test? I know there's positive test in Fury's camp, but has it been confirmed that he personally now has a positive test?
I've heard that. That's what I've heard, and I've been told by people, but I don't know conclusively. I think he does. That's what's been reported here. It was also reported he only had one of the 2 vaccines.
Yeah. I saw that.
But by the way, if one of the 2 vaccines makes you feel a little bit messed up, that probably means it's because it's working. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you have the first one, people, go get the second one. I mean, seriously. Look, what's a shame too is that if you look at Fury's title runs, they also they've been sort of messed up. There haven't been, the kind of defenses you'd like to see for a guy as great as he is. And it's unfortunate. I'm not blaming anybody for COVID. Obviously, this is, and frankly, people are getting COVID again that had both shots. But it really is a bit of a mess when you look at 2 of the biggest fights that were on the schedule disappearing because not everybody did what they were supposed to do. And I find that unfortunate. And I also think that this can't help Fury. I mean, if anything, it's probably giving more fuel to the Wilder camp. But look, I hope everybody recovers quickly and that the fight happens when it's supposed to, which I think now I'm hearing October. And, stuff happens, man, and particularly in the new world we're in right now, cancellations for this virus seem to be continuing to be a regular thing.
With your, vast TV experience, just explain to the viewers out there, because I've seen a few questions about this on social media, exactly why we have to wait until October for the fight to be rescheduled, why it can't be any earlier.
I mean, well, first of all, not every date's available in the venue. You have big venues that have schedules. Second of all, a lot of money just got spent and a lot of publicity just went into promoting this event. And this happened pretty late in the game. So having some period of time in between is sort of important so that people can step back, regroup, create the new materials they have to, change the dates and get prepared. And then you have a lot of people in the camp that apparently tested positive. Like, it's not like COVID is something where, well, 10 days from now, you're fine. Mm-hmm. Like, people have to understand that. I have fighters that contracted COVID during the pandemic that had it affect them for 4 to 6 months. And I've had fighters that still haven't fought because only recently have they felt 100%. I had another fighter that went into the ring. I got him a fight after. I had another fighter that said, "Hey, I already had COVID. I have the antibodies. My coach has the antibodies. I'll take reduced money, buy me onto some cards somewhere." The kid had the fight and he won the fight, but he came out of the fight completely wiped out and exhausted and feeling like, you know what, Lou, maybe I got in there too quickly, So I in this new world of the virus, it's not such a big delay,
Yeah, and it seems like perhaps they also didn't want to go in September because of other pay-per-view events taking place.
Well, there's also exactly. You don't want to compete with Pacquiao. You can't go. You don't even want to go within a week, really, of Pacquiao and Spence. You want to separate it out a little bit, but you certainly don't want to counter program it. So you're also looking for the right date where you don't have massive competition, because the fighters are relying on pay-per-view to get paid. But the other thing too is it's just not like, okay, the fighter's ready, let's go. You got to redo a gazillion logistics. There's a tremendous amount of planning that goes into a big event, and when that event gets canceled, it does take some time to regroup and do what's necessary to get it on again.
And if Fury has tested positive, how concerned should we be? Because you talked about long COVID there. We saw Alexander Povetkin in his rematch with Dillian Whyte didn't look fully recovered. It's conjecture. Maybe it was other reasons, but he didn't look fully recovered from his bout with COVID, which saw him hospitalized. So should we be concerned about Fury's long-term health?
Not unless they tell you should be, or not unless something comes out of his camp that he got very sick or whatever. He's a big, strong guy, and he did have one vaccine, which you would think that at least would provide a degree of protection from getting really sick. I haven't heard anything that he's very ill. So, I would certainly look. That's the other reason, to be honest with you, as a fan, you should be happy that it's a couple of months from now, because there's every reason to think you're going to get the best of both men, and that's what you want. You want the best of both men.
But you think this may add, you said about fuel to the fire, this may add to the confidence in Wilder's camp?
Well, it's certainly given them more of an edge. They're pissed off, right? and I think he was approaching a readiness to fight. He's not ill. He doesn't have this sort of distraction around his camp. I don't think it's going to be a determining factor, but I don't think you would think it might help Wilder a little bit.
And presumably the rest of the show gets postponed along with it, because it's not a one promoter show, is it?
No, there are a lot of fights on it. There are some very good fights, on the card. Look, these kind of COVID things are they're a big deal, because all the fighters on the undercard are also postponed, and a lot of them haven't fought, for a while. My understanding, Kanoski hasn't fought in a long time, for example. So, it's unfortunate when it happens. Look, when Teofimo got COVID, it affected Charles Conwell was fighting that night. I had to basically run to get him within a week, I put him on a fight against just a sort of a an ordinary guy to go a few rounds, and because that was the second postponement he had consecutively. So he had another fight postponed with an injury. So I got him right into the ring, but you can't do that with every single fight. You can't always buy your fighters to keep busy fighting. So I mean, when someone does this or doesn't get vaccinated, when a fight gets postponed, it affects an awful lot of people and an awful lot of corporate entities and it costs money that's not coming back. I mean, all that promotional money, you can't insure against COVID right now. And all that promotional money that was spent leading up to that fight, a lot, and the time that Fox gave toward promoting it, and ESPN, I guess, to a degree, that's just sort of lost. So, I mean, there are repercussions. I feel more badly for the fighters, particularly the undercard fighters that are relying on that big date. But in this COVID environment, with vaccines, without vaccines, look, you can sort of suggest that people should do the right thing, go get the vaccine, particularly if you're looking at a gazillion-dollar payday as a fighter with a limited shelf life, and all fighters have a limited shelf life. So, but you really can't sit there and in this environment, point fingers and really get angry at people for this virus.
What does it benefit either party? Not obviously, we talked about Wilder getting an extra edge because their team aren't happy about what's happened, but in terms of the longer delay, both men haven't fought for a long time. Does it really make any difference? Does it favor either man?
I don't know. I don't think it makes much of a difference. I mean, if like Tyson never looks like an Adonis, honestly. But that doesn't mean he's not in shape. Like, the guy works pretty hard. I mean, he's got a good work ethic, and he can have those love handles or the baby fat or whatever you want to call it, but he's still in shape. Obviously, Deontay was working his rear end off, but he's got people around him that know enough about conditioning, etc., to let him sort of take it down a notch before he elevates it again. I mean, they're professionals. They've been doing this for a while. So I don't so much think that that's going to give anybody a huge advantage.
Well, it gives Wilder, I suppose, a little bit more time with Malik Scott, who, although he's been part of the camp for years, is now the head trainer.
Yeah, it may give them more time to work on sort of specific things they've been trying to improve. It obviously would give them a longer period of time to work on them. I don't think Fury, however, needs much additional time to know how to box, because he just knows how to box.
Good stuff. And you mentioned Pacquiao Spence earlier. They came face to face or face to chest, perhaps, for the first time. Not too
I love Manny, man. I'm a huge Pacquiao fan, but even looking at the weigh-in, I mean, how's he going to deal with that length? I mean, how's he going to deal with the speed, the youth, the length? Whenever you have a legend or an icon in the ring, particularly one that's fought even in the later stages of his career to such a high level, the way Manny has, you can't discount him. You can't count him out. But just seeing them physically together, sort of reinforced in me my belief that it's going to be a real hard night for Manny Pacquiao, and probably a Spence victory.
And your good friend, Jake Paul, he's heading to Cleveland for his next fight with Tyron Woodley.
Man, I it's funny because you know that I sort of have like an affinity. Like, I've been, I don't even know the guy. I had a couple of conversations with him. I think he's okay, but I respect how he's treating his move into boxing. And I even look, he put Amanda Serrano in a terrific fight against a girl who's a reigning 22-pound BC champion, terrific record. She was the best available opponent because neither one of the girls in the unification fights wanted to accept the 6-figure payday, which, as you know, is extremely rare for women. But the fact he's put Amanda on that card, he has a great respect for the sport, and he's also, and that extends not only to male boxers but to women. And look, anybody who's watched Jake Paul along this route, if you're not noticing he's improving, you're not paying attention. I mean, he doesn't look like his opponents in the ring that have looked. He looks like a guy that has worked very hard. He's got BJ Flores is a good trainer. I mean, he's a knowledgeable boxing guy. The guy has a great work ethic from everything I've heard. And look, I said this on social media today. I'm grateful to him for putting Amanda on this card, for giving her this kind of platform. He's going into Cleveland, which is his hometown, which is pretty cool. And it's going to be a big event. And it's going to be a big event. And a woman that I think is maybe the best female fighter in the world, but certainly one of the top three, without question, and a future Hall of Famer, is getting a platform she wouldn't otherwise get because he called for it. He wanted to do it. And as her promoter, I'm talking to his camp and everything else. I've expressed, my gratitude, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Amanda. And frankly, it's going to be a tremendous opportunity to whatever other fighters are on that card. That card's going, particularly in Cleveland, it's going to generate immense attention. And look, we've talked about this before. There've been some fights where the guy didn't, when Jake, I think it was Jake who had the fight in Florida, where that other guy, I don't even know the influencer's name, I don't remember, but that guy looked like he'd never picked up boxing gloves in his life. But that wasn't Jake's fault. But now he's in. Tyron Woodley's a real athlete. He's a real combat sports guy. He's a guy also that knows how to stand up and throw punches. There's nothing illegitimate about that fight. I think this guy's done his best to treat his emerging career in fighting and boxing with respect. He appears to respect the game. So he's gonna get nothing but love from me if that's how he's gonna handle things.
And if he gets past Tyron Woodley in impressive fashion, it seems like the next logical step for him is to fight an actual boxer. But how does he find someone with the right profile who is still beatable?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, right profile and beatable. You're not going to find he's not ready for a legitimate top 5, top 10 kind of guy. That being said, could I theoretically find someone in the top 50 of the IBO ratings or the top 30 of the WBC that he could compete with? People are going to scoff at what I'm about to say, but I think the answer is yes. I probably could. And the other thing too is there are guys around the world who are not respected as championship caliber at this point, but respected as trial horses and opponents. Yeah. And I actually think that among that number, there are people he could beat.
Well, there we go. Let's see.
Here's the other thing, by the way. If he dares to be great, and he tries to identify a guy in the top 15 world ranked type of guy that he thinks is the least common denominator of those kind of guys, and he gives it a good go and he loses in a good fight, I would argue he's bigger, not smaller.
Yeah.
So just another thing to consider. Same way it's true in MMA, same way it's true in women's boxing. He doesn't have to win every fight to have a good run. Just the thought.
Very good one. Okay. We appreciate that, Lou. We'll be back probably later this week rather than next week because we delayed this one because of the Euros.
Yeah, we delayed this one because of the Euros. I had a weekend of football all over the place. I got to watch my Messi and my Argentine paisano, Angel Di Maria, who I thought had a brilliant game in the Copa final. I really enjoyed the football the last couple. I got to tell you that for me, this summer has been, in sports wise, it's been dominated by hockey and football and soccer. So I've really when I say football, I'm meaning soccer. To most Americans, they think that means the helmets and the pads. But no, but I've really enjoyed it. And Danny, good talking to you. We'll talk in the next few days.
Brilliant.